Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, and after listening to the two speeches just before me, I feel that I may have to explain that I'm not as big a scholar as the two of them. I'm a politician and an economist, former economics professor. But I think in this country today, we have to understand the unity which is there and has kept us alive for so many centuries. There's no other country in the world where Islam ruled for 4 or 5 centuries and still it became a minority and finally was wiped out. The British ruled here for 200 years, and the only thing that is left behind is English language. Everything else has disappeared. And that English is also because of the Americans who speak English and have the most modern technology. All of us want to learn, study in America, and therefore English is still there, but slowly English will be replaced by Sanskritized Hindi and ultimately Sanskrit. Today I came here because the DMK was targeting the Hindu religion. The DMK, I don't think, understands Hindu religion. They are mostly from the cinema world where it's all make-believe. But some of them were so offensive that it became necessary to rebut it and put it in a perspective. Today, what I would like to say, I fully endorse what we heard from the two great scholars on the stage today. But I want to speak to you today about our own constitution. What is it? Is it a secular constitution or is it a Hindu constitution? After I have explained to you, you'll realize that this Constitution of India is actually unstated Hindu constitution. So I will begin by pointing out where all we have to see this and understand. First of all, the Indian Constitution was prepared by 3 stalwarts, under the leadership of 3 stalwarts: Rajendra Prasad, Sardar Patel, and Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Rajendra Prasad was the president of the Constituent Assembly, preparing the Constitution. Sardar Patel was the chairman of the Fundamental Rights Committee of the Constituent Assembly. And Ambedkar was the one who piloted the entire bill for the Constitution, made amendments, listened to amendments, and his contribution was extraordinary. And in the end, there was only one point on which Ambedkar said, I will have nothing to do with this in the Constituent Assembly, and that is when Jawaharlal Nehru wanted to introduce Article 370. The exact words of Dr. Ambedkar recorded in the Constituent Assembly debates is, I am not a traitor. I will not allow Article 370 to be introduced. That dream of Ambedkar was finally removed when the BJP came to power in August of 2019. What I would like to say to you is that let us understand that as far as Sanatana dharma is concerned, it is a ageless, timeless dharma. Dharma is essentially a set of rules which we obey, which we believe has divine sanction for it. So in that sense, I would like to say that our nation, which is called Hindustan, has been wrongly thought of something which was originally Sindhustan, which the Arabs pronounced it as Hindustan. Nothing of the kind. If you go to Brahaspati Agam, you will see elaborate, and Brahaspati Agam was part of the Rig Veda. There are phrases and phrases about the definition of Hindustan, including that it is from Himalaya, from which he came, and Hindu Sagar, the Indian Ocean. So he and Hindu together became Hindu. That is one description. So the ancient name for India is Hindustan, a stan where Hindus live. Even today, India, as it's called, is a nation in which 80% of the population are Hindu. And if you add some more minorities to it, as the Constitution says, I don't say it. In the Constitution, it says in Article 25 of the Constitution, and let me read out exactly what it says. And please understand, this is not my view, it is the view of it's there in the Constitution and we are bound by it. Article 25 deals with the freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion. And there is an explanation. It says the reference to Hindus shall be construed to include a reference to persons professing the Sikh, Jain and Buddhist religion. So Hindu is not just Sanatana dharma, but it is also inclusive of Sikhs, Jains and Buddhist religion. And this has not been objected by any of the three religions which is there in the Constitution. So the first thing I would like to mention to you about the Constitution is that it has defined Hinduism is of course Sanatana dharma, but at the same time it says it becomes Hinduism when you add these three religions as well. They are distinct religions. Of course they came out of Hinduism, they came out of India, they are not foreign religions, they didn't come from abroad. But still, he said these are distinctive religions, and that is why we speak about that in these terms. Now, the Constitution consists of the preamble. Please understand what this preamble is. Preamble is not part of the Constitution. Preamble is what the people of India, upon getting the freedom from the freedom struggle against the British, they proposed to the Constituent Assembly what India should be guided by. And that comes right in the beginning of the Constitution. And again I will read it out because this is something you must know. What it says in the preamble: we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign democratic republic and to secure to all citizens justice, which means social, economic and political justice, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, liberty to believe in your faith, in your worship. Now this is a statement which only Hinduism has. Islam does not accept any other religion. In fact, If you are very strict about observing your religion in an Islamic country, you will be minus your head in no time. Then it says equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote them all. This is also there in the preamble of the Constitution. And finally, fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the integrity of the nation. In the emergency, that is in 1976, the period of 1976, Mrs. Indira Gandhi's government introduced two more words into the preamble, and that was socialism and secularism. Now there is no way by which an amendment of the preamble can be made. Preamble comes before the Constitution. So how can you amend the Constitution to include it in the preamble? So I have filed a case in the Supreme Court, and it will come in January, and Mrs. Indira Gandhi's secularism, socialism will be deleted because they are political statements. Now, thereafter, we have, after the preamble, so when you say Constitution, and you're talking about Sanatana dharma, you have to see it in the context of the Constitution. Then the first thing you must be aware of is preamble, and the preamble gives you complete freedom, and it says justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. And these are there in almost no constitution. To some extent, the American Constitution has part of it, but no other constitution has such a complete, clear statement. Now, the Constitution also consists of fundamental rights. And these fundamental rights are extremely important, and they come from, it starts with Article 14, where it's a fundamental right for equality between individuals. But then it goes on, there are other things. There's abolition of untouchability, because untouchability was never part of Hinduism. It was a growth which took place at a period when India was not in its peak of its culture, and it's on Article 17 of the Constitution. It is clearly stated that the untouchability is abolished in this one short line. And whether it is in practice still there, not there, those are secondary matters. It is something that has to go, and each of us have to fight for it. And people, we are all the same people. How do I know that we are all the same people? The DNA studies. The DNA studies, which are now being published in the University of Cambridge Journal of Biology and Genetics, the Houston University in the United States, their publication, and the Mysore University's publication, all of them have brought out all the DNA studies and say that Indians from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, they all have the same DNA. Skin color may be different because of the pigmentation changes that take place due to the exposure to the hot sun. And where the sun is not hot, or at least doesn't fall directly on the people, and therefore like in Kashmir, the skin color can be different. But skin color has got nothing to do with the DNA. DNA studies show that we are Indians from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, and from Jamnagar to, shall I say, Manipur. There may be people who may have come at the fringes, but broadly speaking, 99% of the Indians are the same, have the same DNA. So our DNA is the same. So Aryan Dravidian business is misinterpreted. Dravidian is a word in Sanskrit which Adi Sankara created when he began his Padyatra from Kerala to Kashmir. And on the way at one place where he charged everywhere, he was fighting Buddhism, the harder version of Buddhism, not Mahayana Buddhism, but the earlier version of Hinduism, which was Buddhism, earlier version, which went to Sri Lanka and Thailand and so on other places. These were some of the more stricter versions, but Mahayana Buddhism by then had mingled with Hinduism and had become very broad-minded, and therefore today in the constitution is included as part of the Hinduism. Sikhism, Buddhism and Jainism, they are considered as a part of the word Hinduism. We who are not Buddhists, we who are not Sikhs or we are not Jains, we are called Sanatana Dharma people. Sanatana Dharma is different from the word. The Hindu is a broader word, and as Bindu, all these were born in India, and therefore it is taken together. There in every part DNA is the same. I had once an experience of a debate with Owaisi in Hyderabad, and he said that we are different people, and we came from Arabia, and we are Aryans, and you are Dravidians. So I told him that let us go to the biological laboratory in Hyderabad and test our DNA. And still today he has not come, because he knows what will come out of that. His propaganda will be destroyed. So I want you to understand that when we say Sanatana Dharma and the Constitution is very clear. And when it says that we are one people, and of course there will be fringes here and there. For instance, in Andaman Islands, you will find in some of the islands of Andaman, people who distinctly look as they've come from Africa, but that doesn't mean that it is an expression of India. So what I was trying to say is that our fundamental rights today give you such a wide variety of things which make it, the Sanatana Dharma concept of what was read out to you just now earlier, of the freedom, the equality of women. I mean, the equality of women you see today, women today may be not having the status they had, but if you look at the gods, all the important portfolios of Brahma were distributed to women gods. For instance, finance went to Lakshmi, defense went to Durga, and education went to Saraswati. I want to know which god got any portfolio. And I was told that information broadcasting was given to Narad Muni. So, therefore, women had that status. And that status was expressed even amongst the divinity. So, these are the things which we have lost over the period, and why we today must strive to bring Sanatana Dharma back, because these are some of the things that which we lost in the 1,000 years that preceded our present position, and that's why we need to go forward. So the fundamental rights which have to be seen very clearly, they all point out only the equality issue. Article 14 talks about equality, and then you go on, 15 also talks about the equality of opportunity, and then in employment, for example, and making allowances for those who have been disenfranchised earlier. And then in the process, all those titles that the British gave us all have been abolished in Article 19 to bring us into the arena of equality. So, in Article 19, there are a number of freedoms that are there given to you, and when I read out to that, freedom to speak, speech and expression, but it is subject to reasonable restrictions. It is preceded with the idea that you have freedom to speak, you have freedom to express your views, but it must be subject to some reasonable restrictions. You can't abuse anybody you like, you cannot speak vulgarity, and so on. But otherwise, in terms of expressing opinion, the Constitution guarantees you that freedom. Same thing that you have freedom to travel throughout India freely. You have a right to reside anywhere in India freely, and so on. And this is what the DMK is unable to understand, that they are not real Dravidians. They are people who are uneducated people who are misusing the word Dravidian. The word Dravidian was created by Adi Sankara, who, when he was on his way, he was asked, who are you? And he said, I'm a Dravida Shishu. And he explained it is two words which were merged into one. Tra means three, Vid means coast. So where the three coasts meet, that is where he came from. He came from Kerala. So Dravida is a regional term, and the DMK has made it into a racial term without even studying the matter and reading. Of course, they've been also coming from cinema, so they do not have a clear understanding of our history. So I am asking you today to understand that we Indians are all one, and Sanatana dharma applies to all of us, equally those who are Hindus. And so therefore, in that context, we have to see our constitution. We also have some clauses of the constitution which are called directive principles. Let me read out some of the directive principles that you have in our constitution. First, I'll read not all of them, but first is Uniform Civil Code. This Uniform Civil Code applies to women and men equally in all religions. And now slowly it has started coming. The present government in Delhi has taken a number of short steps, but it's not yet fully reached a stage where we say, no, one man, one woman, equal rights to wealth and rights and so on. So these are things which are in our constitution, and it says that the state shall endeavor to secure the citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. Uniform civil code for social matters, and particularly in the case of marriages and so on. In marriages, when men and women are equal, they cannot be made unequal, as has been in the past, and that may be due to the foreign invasion in our country, which led to women being protected, and then ultimately led to women being enslaved in some ways, and that has to undergo a change. Now, of course, slowly we are finding that women are increasingly improving their positions and so on. We also have a set of duties which strengthen your position on Sanatana Dharma. And I don't want to read those. Those are things that you can read it. They are called, it's in Article 51A, and they're called fundamental duties that are imposed on the people. We have fundamental rights and we have fundamental duties. Fundamental rights is mandatory for the government to protect and implement, and the courts to protect you on that in case it is violated and the government doesn't do anything for you. Then the fundamental rights can be pursued in the courts of law. Fundamental duties cannot be taken up by law, it cannot be taken by, but this is something the government must deliver. So it is an issue on which you can fight with the government, but at the moment those are rights which give you extraordinary power, and this is something that you should be able to read and understand. So now I come to another article which should explain to you something which it's again a part of Hinduism and is there in the constitution. And what does it say? That it's Article 48, and it says that the state shall endeavor to organize agriculture and animal husbandry on modern and scientific lines, etc., take steps to preserving and improving the breeds of cows and prohibiting slaughter of cows and calves. So the ban on the slaughter of cows is there in the constitution. You cannot say this is a Hindu matter and therefore, others can eat cows, but if the Hindus don't want to eat, they need not. But we have a right. No. This constitution says in India, cows shall not be slaughtered under any circumstance. And so let people understand that. So similarly, there is these values are finally into the totality of it is this, that our Sanatana dharma, which is the ancient law, has been converted into the Constitution of India. It has been incorporated in the Constitution of India. And when the Constitution of India says something, it is clear that this nation is a Hindu nation as far as the Constitution is concerned. And that comes out very clearly when it says that liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, that everyone has a liberty to follow the religion he wants. That is not there in Saudi Arabia. That's not there in UAE. That's not there in Afghanistan. So it's not there in a number of your countries in Europe which are Christian countries and which were originally part of Yugoslavia and all is broken up to pieces. So India is the only country which gives complete freedom of belief for your religion. Although we are 80%, but the fact of the matter is that we have given every right to every religious minority to pursue their own thing as long as other aspects of the Constitution are preserved. For example, minorities cannot claim that they can slaughter cows because that is banned by the Constitution. Minorities cannot say that I'll have 3 wives or 4 wives because in my religion it's allowed. Sorry, that's not allowed by Article 44 of the Constitution. So put together, Sanatana Dharma is, as it was explained to you very clearly, is far more modern than anyone has understood. It has had such principles which today we need to recover and implement. And as far as the Constitution is concerned, it has all these things very clearly. There's one more thing which I want to bring because this is a matter which is in Tamil Nadu a big issue, and that is the question of language. And let me answer this by going to the Constitution. And of course, the DMK cannot say that we won't believe in the Constitution. In 1991, I was a minister, senior most minister of Mr. Chandrasekhar's government. And one day Chandrasekhar told me that Karunanidhi tells him that he will bring LTT injured people and put them in Madras hospitals to be treated for the wounds they have received in that IPKF fight. And he said, this we cannot allow because IPKF is an Indian force and the LTT is against India. So please go and explain to him. So I had gone I came to Madras and I met Karunanidhi and I told him that, you can't do this. He said, no, I will do it. What will you do? So I said, under Article 356, I can dismiss your government. So he said in Tamil, we Rattatoda Aarodum Tamil Nadu. So I said, okay, we will see. And I did here supervise the dismissal of the DMK government on 30th January 1991. And I can tell you, not even a cycle was burnt, much less they made all these noises, they did not. So I want to tell the DMK government, please stop attacking the Hindus. Please stop attacking the Hinduism. We are entitled under the Constitution to dismiss your government, and it can be done. And it has been done in the past. Learn from the past and control all your loud mouths and filthy mouths of your party who make all kinds of aspirations against the people in this country, in particular in this state, who don't belong to your party and are against your party. All these must stop. It must become a part of India. It must follow the Constitution of India. And the Constitution of India requires you to follow Sanatana dharma, and Constitution provides you, enforces you to follow democracy. And therefore you cannot use your physical strength on the people who otherwise are not in a position to defend themselves. This is what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for your scintillating and enlightening speech. Can we have a big round of applause for all the speakers? நன்றியுரை வழங்க வீராட் சங்க உறுப்பினர்